introducing ourselves, and then I'll go ahead and introduce our loose agenda, and then we'll get started. So my name's Amanda Canderas. I'm a book author and professor and consultant. And I am interested in humor specifically because my book, Talk Types, explains why we have different preferences for humor. So this is very much up my alley. Although I'm not a stand-up comedian, Mike.
I dabbled. I used to work in television, and I did scout comedian, so I thought I'd be a better scout if I got 5 minutes together, which I did. You wouldn't like the jokes. But now we're started a consultancy for B2B tech companies who are ready to go to market. It's called Simple Marketing, and the idea is to keep what you're talking about simple because it's B2B, and most of those people don't know what you're talking about when you're talking about the tech. So, and I'm currently reading Amanda's book. Dave.
Excuse me. I'm Dave Macon. I've been told by my mom that I'm very funny, so you're in for a real treat.
That counts.
Yes.
That sums it up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kellyanne Fedio, and I'm a recovering attorney, so you can make all the jokes you want about that. And because I didn't get enough arguing in as an attorney, I decided to become a mother after that and argue with younger people. And then after that, I became an entrepreneur and built $1 million brand, sold it, and now I love empowering entrepreneurs, startups, and others to live their most extraordinary lives, boost profit, earn more, and free up time. I help people build their personal brands, and one of the best ways to connect is through humor. I also have been told by my family that I'm funny, but again, that's biased. So, basically, humor increases dopamine, which people are always chasing that hit. So whatever we can do it, and it's really fascinating to see how it spans across marketing and advertising.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie. I am the founder and CEO of Malka Digital. We're a full-service digital marketing and technology agency, started in Hawaii back in 2011 and expanded to the mainland in 2019. And fun fact, we are 100% remote from day one back in 2011. We don't like to pass along overhead. We build brands, we tell stories, we build technologies, we help our customers find their customers online.
My name is Sarah Olds. I work for an advertising and business consulting firm in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I firmly believe in sarcasm as humor because from the South, everything has a little bit of honey and a lot of sass. And my mama is here today, so I'm going to ask her, am I funny? Yeah, I didn't think so. It's just a Southern thing.
It's just sarcasm.
Just sarcasm,
She
which
told
is
me-
a language.
She told me at lunch that I was funny.
She fibbed to you. She was being sweet. Bless your heart.
Oh, that's right. Thank you all so much. So we have been discussing a lot about humor together, and one of the things that we've been discussing is this idea of narrative and marketing narratives, and we landed on the idea that marketing narratives really have to do with brand personality. And that's really the starting point, the foundation for adding humor into any marketing message. So we want to start out with Jamie, who could talk to us about what he does in his company with brand persona, or brand personality and buyer persona.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. Everybody says, want to make a funny video. Make some viral, right? Well, it says who? Is it you that wants it, or is it your customers that want it? The most important thing that we do, and I don't want to make it about us, but I think every single company should do, is when you get a new customer or a prospect, you take that step back and you say, all right, what's your goal? And who are your customers? And that can go two paths. Number one, they know who their customers are. Or number two, They don't know. And if they don't know, well, then we got to find out, because those customers might not want a funny video. They might be a serious brand. They might want to buy something from a serious company. So understanding your buyer persona, we take weeks to go through this, almost sometimes months, to find out the perfect buyer persona for our customers before we even talk humor. And during those meetings, there's a lot of humor, but during that process, we find out a lot about what their customers want. I love quoting. My team hears this way too much. I love quoting Joe Dirt. It's not what you want. It's the consumer.
Yeah. And anyone, feel free to hop in at any point, but we thought that was a good starting point. And then once we have our brand personality outlined, established, then we can start the conversation about layering humor into it. But before we even go there, I'd like to kind of get us talking about a definition of humor. What is humor? Before we talk about how we can use it. You've got some ideas on that?
I have one.
Okay.
Humor is what English common. Why can't it play? Well, okay. He said comedy is the ability to make people laugh without making them puke. And then the show ended. I think comedy humor is often really effective at uncovering insights or truths that we may not know, may not have realized, or may know and have repressed. But usually when someone laughs, that's because a lot of times jokes connects two things that are totally unrelated in a way that you hadn't realized before. So you can uncover a truth by using a joke, but I think humor, using it for the sake of using it, is a I wouldn't advise it. Like Jamie was saying, like, we want to make a funny video. Like, well, why? What's the point? Why would it be? They might not want it. So and whether or not it's funny, that's definitely not up to you. So it could be a huge pitfall. But yeah, I think that's the power of comedy is you've got once you know your audience, and maybe they could take a joke effectively if it is going to, no, I wouldn't say a joke, but using humor to make the point that needs to be made. However, it comes in so many different forms, but it's going to let them know, oh, they understand my pain points. They have the solution to my problem. They understand me because they've just made me laugh at something that is a painful part of my life.
Right. So establishing that brand personality, making sure it aligns with the humor, but then making sure that there's a reason for even using the humor to begin with. And there are many reasons to use humor, of course. Jeff Foxworthy, one of the quotes I'll never forget from him, he says, if you make people laugh, they will have a certain affection for you. And the same is true, of course, for brands. But the question is how to do that effectively. And there's so much material and so many different ways to use humor. So if we kind of take the definition that it's hard to define humor, but if we take a working definition of humor that it serves multiple functions, it functions on multiple levels, and it may have some underlying truth, or it may connect disparate ideas. What are some kinds of humor?
Oh, there's your standard stand-up, and even then, there's like sub-genres. There's like Mitch Hedberg and Stephen Wright, the one-liner. I am tired of soup of the day. We need to make a decision. I want to know what soup from now on is. Now, some people think that's funny. Other people wouldn't. I do not get certain comedians, and so I don't go see them. But there's a dark humor. There's blue. Have you ever heard blue? Is that a word? Raise your hand if you know what blue humor is. Really? Blue. It's like when you go blue, that means you're getting dirty. You don't, like at a corporate
In
event.
a very clean crowd.
This is very not blue. This is very yellow, I would say. Yeah, yellow is opposite. And so there's absurdist humor that's funny forever. There's timely political humor, but the kind of humor in marketing is really has to be focused on. It can't be focused on the laugh. or even getting a laugh. Just to use it, humor doesn't necessarily mean laughing. It means just using humor, using levity instead of gravity. And then if you do that, say you're talking about something very serious, and then you use levity to make a point, and vice versa. When you're using levity, when you do need to make your point, that anvil comes down 10 times harder because you have been, light the whole time. So there's, a lot of ways to use it, but make sure that it is making the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, I think comedy is such a spectrum, right? There's not one thing that's universally funny. Like we were talking before, there's like a universally like scary things. Like if you're in the ocean and you see like a shark, I think everybody's generally scared of that. Whereas I'm English and I find awkward humor amazingly funny. Americans do not like to feel awkward, right? So the awkward humor doesn't play out very well with an American audience, whereas, back in England, it's just that's part of the culture of comedy. And if you watch any British comedy shows, it's always just cringe-worthy, just, oh, God. And so it's such a spectrum, and I think that's why it's so hard for companies and brands to employ humor within their marketing, because it is such a degree of what some people find funny and what some people find utterly distasteful.
It's always safe to be boring. Safe is boring.
Yes. So, talking about brand personality, talking about what is humor, and then just to give you all a sense of kind of where we're going, I want to talk broadly about what humor works, what doesn't work, what is striking the right tone versus not, and getting some examples. So, Sarah, if you could talk to us about when humor works. I know that in your company, you've gotten it to work, and you've gotten, particularly with some ads more than others, describe for us what happened and why you think it worked.
Well, for me, and I don't know, probably most people know here that Meta has a lot of barriers that you can't use a lot of medical terms for ads. So you have to be quite clever. So we work with a lot of gynecologists, and that is not something that you want to look up on social media. But why would you want to follow your gynecologist? So let's make it fun. If we're talking about menopause, then we're going to talk about the vagina. We're going to use the vaginal rejuvenation. You're going to do with it. There's all kinds of just fun things you can do to be clever to get around Meta's barriers. We work with gyms, and one of our most engaging billboards is super simple. It's red, and it says no jerks, period. That's it. And then it has the logo. Because Planet Fitness is a nationwide gym, and it's very popular in our area, we decided to make fun of their lunk alarm. And since we have a women's room, we played to the no jerks. Don't get hit on. Don't be grunting. Just come to our gym. Enjoy it. Another good example is just we work for a dog grooming company, and dogs are funny. So we post a lot of ads about rock star dogs and dogs of different themes, and it's really not about grooming. It's about daycare and finding your right pooch. But everybody likes a cute dog, so why not make it funny? Make fun of the booty scratchings, which also works in gynecology, if you're wondering. Instead of getting frisky, you get itchy. That ad did convert quite well, by the way. You just have to think outside the box, because even if it doesn't convert, it will be rememberable. And the whole point is breaking that barrier and being remembered.
I didn't get that joke, but that's why I'm not the audience. I'm not the target. Why would I get that joke? I'm not your customer. I don't go to a gynecologist.
I mean,
Surprise.
I would really
Follow
hope
your
not.
gynecologist, Mike.
So we're not supposed to follow our gynecologist?
I hang around with gynecologists.
I mean, I want you all to follow your gynecologist, so, they do have gold vulva puppets and other fun things. Don't discount them.
You all did not know what you were signing up for when you came to the humor panel.
I don't know what any of these things are.
The look on all the men's faces.
You're welcome.
Don't make eye contact with anyone else.
But I mean, this is part of the discussion about what works and what doesn't, and both Dave and Sarah kind of tapped into this. Is that what works in one culture or one context may not work in another, and we have to be careful of that. I mean, with the exception of maybe cute dogs, that's a safe humor. That's even, it's safe like being boring, but it doesn't. It's a better approach than just being boring.
Yeah.
So that's an option.
Quick
Go
point.
for
Where
it.
is this? This is also like specific to like America, our culture, because sometimes jokes go overseas and aren't very funny. They can start fights. All sorts of stuff can happen. It's happened. It's a thing.
In overseas jokes.
Uh,
Oh,
when you-
bringing U.S. culture.
Yeah,
abroad.
or vice versa. Everything goes fine until Paul drops a word they say in England that we don't drop here.
No, absolutely. So cross-cultural humor sometimes can miss the mark. Um, if Jamie, could you talk about, or actually, before we go to Jamie, let's hear from Dave on just regional humor. I think you had some interesting comments on that.
Well, yeah. So I think I told everyone, what was it, day 2, right? I told everyone yesterday I currently live in Iowa, and the thing with living in Iowa that I found is that I don't know if like most of Iowan natives know what to do with me, because usually a conversation with a Midwesterner is generally part of like a dialogue tree in a video game. Whereas like you have one appropriate answer and then you select that and then it moves on to the next branch in the tree. And I always
so
try to
good.
push that and say something totally off topic and just see how they react. And so it's all about kind of matching. It's kind of reading a room, understanding your audience, and then understanding, kind of what's appropriate for that area, for that demographic. So, I mean, you can tell jokes in this room that you might probably even not be able to even go to the education session and tell the same joke, right? Because the education probably people are way boring, and they have no sense of humor.
Legit.
Are you in there?
I
I meant the
one
health.
of those-
I meant the health.
one of those cross panels.
But and I think the whole pick up on the whole dog thing.
We love
And
dogs.
this isn't me trying to be an asshole, but like sometimes I feel like jokes, it's all in the tone that it's also told in. Like just when you speak to a dog, you can say the most horrendous things to a dog, but you say it in such a sweet tone, like yeah. Whereas sometimes I think
Such the ugliest thing ever.
right. So sometimes I think there's the confusion even within
Yellow cat
jokes.
people.
It's not so much the content, but how it's also delivered. That kind of a lighter tone can, but comedy, regardless of where you are regionally, it's such a disarming way of getting around it because nobody wants to have difficult discussions or uncomfortable discussions, or even talk to a salesperson, right? So if you can kind of break through a little bit and just make them feel, oh, okay, well, all right, and then it's great. But yeah, understanding your audience regardless of where you are. So things that would fly, in like Boston, probably wouldn't make any sense in like Southern California.
And go ahead, Sarah.
I'll make a quick comment to that is sometimes you don't know your audience, and so A/B testing is going to be your best friend. And push that barrier. Don't do it safe. Test it, and then your data is going to tell you everything you need to know, from geographical region to male, female, other. It doesn't matter. It's all there.
Yeah, and you were talking with us about how you really haven't had a humor fail because of that.
Yeah, we like to push the boundary. I think we get away with a lot more considering where we're located, but it's because of the A/B testing. If it just doesn't work when we test it, we're not going forward. We will tinker, we will change, and we will find what does work because we do know our audience, we know our region, and we know our clients. And that goes back to what Jamie said. knowing them, knowing ourselves, and knowing our audience.
Sounds like a comedian.
Kellyanne, when so you are a consultant for brands. I imagine companies and individuals alike. If you're taking on a new client and they want to add some humor, what kinds of questions would you ask them to kind of get them to a place where you could even begin to strategize an approach?
Great question. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but I'm a brand building expert. I've built my own brand, and you first have to know your audience. And with brand identity, brand development, it can take months to really refine that. And building your customer avatar. Your avatar is different than your audience. Your avatar is that one specific person, like down to their name, where they live, what they do for a living, everything, not just demographics and things like that. And really getting in their psyche and then determining whether humor is even relevant. For example, if you are doing marketing for a funeral home, I can't see how humor would ever be relevant, right? Dogs, like, generally, why wouldn't you use humor, right? My favorite example of viral humor was Dollar Shave Club. Buy our razors, they're fucking great. So, that went viral, and, what do they have to lose, right? They're just talking about razors. People, like, who's going to be offended about, using the word, the F word? You were offended?
That ad is like, I point to it as like one of the greatest ads.
That's like my favorite frigging example, and I would love to ask the audience later or just get a little discussion going of our favorite examples. But it really is in brand identity and brand development. A lot of lay people think it's about the logo and the color and all of this kind of stuff, but it really is so much more to it. And then once you are actually doing like digital marketing, advertising on Meta, there's A/B testing. You could do focus groups. There's so many ways to refine it and to figure out, and tweak things. And it's an iterative process, but and also surveying your customers and knowing. But again, not using humor for humor's sake. The industry is very important. I'm a lawyer. I do a lot of consulting for law firms, and for example, personal injury attorneys dealing with catastrophic brain injuries. We're not going to be using humor there. So just
I think anywhere in court, you probably want to not.
Exactly. Judges don't like that too much. Well, but in terms of marketing and advertising, but there have been a lot of law firms. There's crazy billboards with the ambulance chaser type of law firms that have used humor, right?
Yeah.
But it
Those are
comes
bad
off
ones.
as kind of cheesy, So it just depends.
Those aren't. If you use a billboard and you're a lawyer, doesn't that mean you're not a good lawyer?
I will
Okay,
take the fifth
Take
on
the
that
fifth.
one, but yeah.
Well, and striking the right tone. I know. So you mentioned, funeral home. That's not something that we would probably want to use humor in. You've got your well-loved example of Eric Clapton.
Weird Al Yankovic was once asked. We all know who he is, I assume. Weird Al, national treasure. He was asked, "Is there one song you would not parody?" And without 1 second going by, he said, "Tears in Heaven." And I was like, that guy, that's exactly right. I would not parody that song. But could I make a quick? That would be the wrong tone. But it's more fun to, food.
We'll go back there. We've got time. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think funeral homes, just across the board, are hard to advertise for. Like, my parents are elderly, so I just bought a bigger house that they could kind of take the basement, which is like a house in its own. But my mom's like upper 70s, and we just got a thing in the mail that was like, addressed to her, that was like, "You thought about cremation?" I was like, fuck, man, it's hard. It wasn't even, I know, but I know, it wasn't even trying to be funny. I'm like, man, this is, I'm like, I hadn't, but now,
I haven't yet.
yeah, I was just going to put her in the bin and hopefully they just pick her up on the Wednesday with the rest of the trash. I'm sorry, that's sick.
I think funeral homes are easy to advertise. People are dying to get in there. Come on.
Dark humor.
Just go dark.
I was going to say that too, but I thought that was too
I
much.
thought that was more of a dad joke.
That was a good one, Jamie.
Good one.
He takes the cake so far. So, well, yeah, and it is. I mean, it is hard to strike the right tone. The company escapes me now, but there was a car. I don't want to say the wrong name, brand, but there was a car that came out with a low emissions vehicle, and they had was it Hyundai? Yeah, and they had a commercial come out where there was a gentleman who was trying to commit suicide in the vehicle, but he couldn't because it was a low emissions vehicle. Um, yeah, it didn't work. No. So there weren't enough fumes. So sometimes I don't know how some of these get passed, but they're not doing the A/B testing. That's for sure. Jamie, could you talk to us about mitigating some of the risks with an example, sort of being too big to fail?
Yeah, so in humor specifically, it can go a few ways. We're touching here on dark humor, right? And there's some light humor. Hyundai, those customers that bought it and tried suicide, obviously they failed and try harder, right? We can go deep down the hole and we can get awkward because we don't know our buyers. That happens a lot more than you think. And to Sarah's point, there's A/B testing that goes out, and we don't see the majority. Consumers do not see the heavy majority of what failed. And we shouldn't if the agency is doing its job right. The ones that hit are the ones that get picked up. And so there is some concern there. I would almost say danger. There is some risk, some heavy risk when you're trying new things. We push the envelope on everything. I mean, we find the edge and just run and jump beyond it to test. I tell my team all the time, we love breaking things. But if you go too far, that's a brand ender. And not just for your customer, but it can be for you. If you have an agency or a consultancy, that one customer, that one single testimony can tank everything. And so we're not saying to not push the envelope. We're saying know your audience. Know when to slow down, maybe not stop, but know when to look around. Now, on the other side of that, fun humor, right? We're inundated with right now. Dollar Shave Club, Harry's Razors, great videos, great humor. Self-deprecating is taking the lead right now, self-deprecation. And if you're smart and you do it, you don't even need to talk about your brand. You can just have fun and drop some great humor bombs, and the customers love you and adore you. People don't buy what they want. They buy the brand that they most align with. And if they're happy, they're going to buy from you. You might not get everybody, and that's why there's A/B testing, because you might have to go dark some areas.
Jamie, did you notice that the other shave commercial, they didn't even mention the razor?
Exactly.
Didn't even mention the razor.
Now, the too big to fail piece, Coca-Cola came out with some AI, unrelated to comedy, but a perfect example. They came out with some AI and they got some pushback. And they realized that people were a little put off. So they went down the rabbit hole. And they didn't stop. And they put out 3, 4, 5 more little vignettes telling customers that, look, number one, this isn't going anywhere. Our humor, our AI, our brand is not going anywhere. But you need to slowly adopt to what we're doing. And so there are some times when you're too big to fail, but you also need to know that you can alienate a large portion of your customer base.
Another good example of those kind of too big to fail, but also not really caring about the product, but more because you love them, is insurance agencies with chaos versus flow, or flirty billboards like Chick-fil-A and Buc-ee's. I mean, it's a gas station and a chicken sandwich, but we're remembering those cows. and we're remembering the flirty humor of the Bucky signs that were literally trying to rope us in. It's passion, and it makes you giggle and grin, and that's what we need more of. Less canceling, more grinning.
I
And ultimately, like Jamie was saying, we end up buying products that support our identities because we feel aligned and emotionally connected to these products even more than we may want or need them. Um, Dave, could you talk to us about, there's a specific commercial that you mentioned that never actually talked about the product, The Boss Isn't Here.
Oh yeah. So it was on LinkedIn. I just saw it this morning. It's for a cereal company called Surreal, and so I was just kind of flipping through it, and it gets to a point where it says, it's just kind of looks like handwriting. It says the boss isn't here, so we don't really have to do anything. Like we don't have to really focus on content. And so it's like, so we're just going to post about dogs. And there's like 16 slides in this thing, and he just keeps swiping by. It's like, here's a dog, another dog, and it's just random dogs. And then it says like, here's a cat. And you're like, okay. And then finally you get to the end, and it was just like, it talks about. And then there's a picture for the cereal, and then it's the logo, and it says I don't know, something about like great cereal, terrible work ethic. And I was just like, I don't know. It made me stop. I enjoyed it. So yeah, no. But I think it's beyond humor, just anything like just even the core is understanding who your business is. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be humorous, but like Bud Light, got on Kid Rock's bad side, and then everyone's like, we're not going to buy Bud Light. And again, but people are so stupid because they're like, oh, I'm going to buy this other brand of beer, but it's still made by the same company, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to buy Bud Light, but it's understanding like, okay, Bud Light, your audience are not civil rights, they're not they're not marching anywhere for people's civil rights. You got to understand it's Bud Light, right? Like these are not people that are concerned about these topics. So it's understanding marketing. As I was saying before, I think we were talking about it. I said, marketing boiled down to its purest form is how to use people's emotions to manipulate them to do what you want them to do, right? And it's that's what it is at its core. So just understanding whether it's humor, it's sad, it's this, it's understanding, what are the emotional cues you want to pick up on. Present it to the right people that actually will align with that emotion, and then have them do what you want them to do.
And in a larger kind of discussion about striking the right tone, a lot of people think that B2B marketing can't use humor. You would disagree?
Yes. There's a whole thing. There's people I've talked to that agree that for some reason B2B, and maybe because they're so risk averse, they are boring, always boring. And it's as though they confuse being boring and serious with being interesting. And if you want to generate interest, you have to be interesting. And so, you can use humor in B2B. It's possible. I've actually done it, and it worked to great effect. Because it was called for. The whole field was so serious. It was cybersecurity. Every ad was like a dark room, a guy in a hoodie, hacking a computer, a dark guy in a dark room, dark hoodie. That's not even how it works. That's not how. It's like a bright room with lots of people coding. That's not what. He's not robbing a liquor store. He's hacking into your data. And all the systems in use were these heavy things that no one could. All the customer interviews, they said, it's all so heavy and cumbersome and complicated, and nothing works, and it just slows you down, and you just get stuck into it, and you can't get out of it. And so we started the ad with this knight in full suited armor crossing the street and getting hit by a car. Here's a car coming. He draws his sword, and it didn't work. And so we shifted from dark to fun, and it helped, the room when they walked in. Not only did they get the product, but they thought, oh, thank God, like they're not going to. Come in with a human. One ad ended with the human skull. It was like Threat Connect, join the revolution. I was like, what? 'Cause nothing connects hearts like skulls and bones. So. No, this is one of the competitors. Because I watched all the competitors, like everything is so dark, everything. So I think it can be used. I think funny is if it makes the point, then it's fine. And if you're just trying to jam it in there, then it'll be forced and it won't be funny.
But how did you arrive, excuse me, at that conclusion that you could go against the grain and approach it with humor? And how did you find that the message there?
The board and the CEO approved it. But I worked with I worked on a number of analogies and then presented them to the engineers, and they said that one works well because it's got all the
But how did you even think humor? I mean,
because everything else was so dark. I knew I wanted it not to be anything but dark. It didn't necessarily have to have humor, but it needed to be inviting. Like it ends with it's a network effect, not like a wall. So it says we're building a community of users, and we'd like you to join. And ended up it was an optimistic message, and that's how I came. I don't remember the exact process of how I got to night, but I knew I wanted it to be light and not serious and not so fearful. It was like just fear mongering. I didn't want it to be that. And so it evolved, and I got pretty good ideas out of engineers and other people who claim not to be creative, but are. They just don't know it.
we have just a few more minutes. Just want to open it up to for comments or questions. Um, yeah, go ahead. Oh, you were first. Yeah.
If you're not funny, don't try to be funny. It's,
Hire someone that is funny. I think people generally have a fair sense of whether they're funny or not. But how do? What's the question? Is how to train?
I think exposing them to tragedy. Like Mel Brooks said that comedy is when somebody falls in an open manhole cover. Tragedy is when it happens to me. So I think there's a fine line between like tragedy and humor, and so I think some of the funniest people always have, there's always something dark to their past.
It depends on the person too. Maybe just have them if they have a sort of a blank stare. That can be funny in and of itself. Just
Well, and I mean, it depends if you're answering, if you're looking not you, but this person is looking personally or as a business. Because if it's a business and they want to strike a humorous tone or lighten things up, then of course they can just hire Kellyanne. But if they're looking to change kind of the way that they interface with others, that's a lot harder. And maybe Dave is onto something, but we don't wish that on anyone.
I've got one quick comment. Hope maybe this answers it. We've had a lot of employees over years doing this for a long time, and we've had some creators that came and said, "Hey, I'd really love to work on that campaign," and you just like, you're not meant for this campaign. Trust me, you are creative, but a different kind of creative, and specifically humor. It can be trained a little bit. You can learn it, but it's like a natural artist painting a painting, and then me trying to come along and figure out how to do a stick figure. Give me long enough, and I could figure out how to do that. Or what we've done in the past is says, all right, you want to work on this campaign, pitch me on what your ideas are, and we can tailor those then to be a different kind of comedy, let's say, for example. So it might not work perfect for that campaign, but you could let them take a shot. Obviously, don't stifle their creativity, but they could show you that they have something really weird up their sleeve. Maybe it's not the perfect answer for that campaign, but you might see something crazy come out of it.
Thank you, Jamie, for that perspective. Let's hear. A/B testing.
Always test your audience. Know your audience.
The A/B testing sounds a lot like comedians working out their set. They go to that's why you can't bring phones to sets, because that's them A/B testing their jokes and seeing what works. So hopefully they will avoid that.
And it's not foolproof. I mean, nothing is foolproof. But making sure that it's a diverse group, even if you think you know your audience, maybe throw some people in there that you, because we don't know what we don't know.
Having a good public relations firm if you're a big company helps too.
Yes, yes.
Good insurance.
Yeah, good insurance.
Well, I also say that I think there's certain people that you can tell the same joke from two different people, and it'll be taken completely differently, right? So it's even understanding, what are your personal limits as to what you can get away with, right? So.
Would you like to hear a career-ending joke? Sarah?
That is fair. But let's be honest, if I say something and he says it, I can get away with it a lot better than he could.
I could tell you a date-ending joke.
Don't, Mike,
but
don't,
not here.
Don't.
It literally ended the date. I thought it was hilarious.
And that's time.
And time.
A panel-ending
Thank you
joke.
so much. If, of course, we're here to connect if you have any more comments or questions. And thank you so much for your time.